right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Fearcast. This is the podcast dedicated to OCD and anxiety spectrum disorders and getting your life back. I'm your host, Kevin Foss, and I'm a licensed therapist specializing in OCD and anxiety disorders. Thank you all so much for joining me for this episode. This podcast, for those of you who are new, is a question and answer based podcast. You can send me questions about OCD and anxiety treatment and all that stuff. Go over to fearcastpodcast.com to send me a question. You can also send me a question over at Instagram. I am Fearcast Podcast over there. Go send me a message. Go send me a DM over there. And you can record your voice over there. It's probably the easiest way to do it. Audio questions get sent to the top of the list. I will answer those sooner than ones from the archives. But today I'm going to be answering one from the archives. So get excited, everybody. So, I have nothing really at the top. I always think I'm going to have something really cool to talk about at the top. Some announcements. I mean, I guess the best announcements I probably got is, I hope everybody is gearing up for, IOCDF in the summer, which, is going to take forever to get there, but we'll get there. We'll get there. It's going to be in Chicago, I believe, this year. So I'm planning on going. We'll see how it goes. Or if you're planning on going to the ADAA, the Anxiety and Disorders Association of America conference in Vegas this year. So that's certainly closer to Los Angeles than Chicago. So I'll probably make it to that. But outside of that, we've had some surprisingly weird weather here in California, and it's been kind of pleasant. I mean, I always want more rain, more gloom, more overcast, more fog. And I'm sure there are some people who go, "You're crazy. You live in Southern California. Weather is always just good," and that's the problem. It always is. It's just good. It's fine. But it's monotonous. It's boring. I want some variety. And rain down here is a novelty. So I want more of it. But it does give me, the nice weather lately has given me more reason to do more house projects. I find that, I was, my most recent project, you probably, long-time listeners will hear me have complained about the sprinkler project of yesteryear. That is, for the most part, done. There are some additions and changes I want to make to it. But I was building this retaining wall around a tree. Just block on block, and got to set the foundation and do the sand and level it and all this stuff. I find that when I do that and I don't wear gloves, it wears off my fingerprints to the point where my computer, which has like a fingerprint detector, it doesn't read my fingerprints anymore. So if there's any way, or if there's any reason for me to go on like a crime rampage or crime spree, I don't have fingerprints right now, at least according to my technology. So, for those of you who have harm-related obsessions and are looking to, get some really good exposure, that might be a good thing to do. Work with some really rough retaining wall type of blocks with no gloves. It wears off your fingerprints, so you can do all the murder you want. If you're into that thing, if you're not, it's cool, that too. But something to consider. All right. I'm going to answer a question today from Cece. So she asked a super quick, easy question that I'm going to elaborate on, since I think it deserves elaboration. So Cece's question goes thusly: I don't know which exposure exercises help to work with my sensorimotor OCD. I have it with an earworm of a police siren, swallowing, and a lump in my throat feeling. And that's it. That's the entirety of her question. Cece, I love the question. It's a great question. To the point, awesome question. All right. So for those of you who are new, sensorimotor OCD is a subtype of OCD that we've talked about a whole bunch. And sensorimotor kind of fits underneath the umbrella of oh my gosh, my brain, of hyper-awareness OCD, which ultimately is under the real umbrella of just obsessive-compulsive disorder. Sensorimotor and hyper-awareness tends to focus or have the themes around one's body parts, one's physical sensations, one's physical features or functions. And hyper-awareness can also just be, being, as the name would suggest, hyper-awareness of stuff around you, stuff inside of you, your thoughts. It can be a sound. It can be a thing that you see. So it can kind of be anything. And this question from Cece really highlights kind of the differences with those, right? So maybe more from a sensorimotor, like a traditional sensorimotor, I don't know, tradition, we might say, traditional sensorimotor theme. Swallowing and the lump in your throat feeling would be more of that. Maybe more of a police siren or the earworm of that. Maybe more hyper awareness, but if it's an earworm, it's probably just the thought of the sound. I can imagine that's more what you're talking about here, Cece. Anyways, it ultimately just means you're paying a lot of attention to it. It can lead to, oftentimes it can lead to the fear of, well, what if this never goes away? What if this is stuck in my head forever? I can't be present. I can't focus. I can't be in my relationships, at work, do my hobbies because I'm constantly thinking about this. So I've also worked with some folks with like swallowing or blinking or breathing types of sensorimotor obsessions, where they have this fear that they're going to transmit it to somebody else. They're going to give it to somebody else if they do it wrong. So that adds to it. Adds another layer of the obsession to it. So we've talked about this a lot, but Cece asked a great question: what is the best exposure for it? Well, I'm here to tell you there is no perfect and best exposure. So I don't know which exposure exercises help to work with my sensorimotor OCD, is what she says. Now, it could be based in, she's doing a bunch of exposures. Maybe she's working with a therapist or not working with a therapist, but maybe, she's got the idea that, well, you got OCD, you got to do some exposures, you expose yourself to the thing itself, and she's noticing that the anxiety is not going down and she's not getting used to it. And I'm here to tell you, you're not gonna get used to the fact that you're swallowing, or the fact that sometimes you get a lump in your throat, or the fact that sometimes you get an earworm of a police siren in your head, right? I'm a musician as a hobby, and like every day I wake up and there's some type of song that's playing in my head, and it's not one that I've asked for, and sometimes it's very embarrassing. Sometimes it's fun, or it's like the song that, my kid was singing the night before, and it's just kind of playing on loop in my head. Now, that for some would be obnoxious. For me, it's kind of like I don't treat it as obnoxious. It's just part of my day, and in fact, it's I kind of go, all right, well, it's going to be, things are as they should, in a sense. Maybe that's a superstition for me. Like, things are as they should because I've got this song in my head, and that's how things go for me. All right, separate conversation. So there are a lot of different exposures you can do, but what I really want to talk about today is acceptance and attention training for sensorimotor OCD. So I get the feeling, or I'm wondering if your main question is, or main concern with these is, I just want this to go away, right? There's a great podcast with Stephen Phillipson. I always forget, is it Philip Stevenson? Stephen Phillipson? Doesn't matter. That guy, the boat captain from New York. He did this podcast on the OCD stories, and he was talking about sensorimotor. He talked a little bit about it like a sense of entitlement, and don't hear this in the wrong way, Cece, but it's like this frustration of like, I want this to go away. I expect this to go away. I demand this to go away, almost as if you didn't deserve to have it in the first place. And why is it that you have to suffer with it? Now, that may or may not be happening. It may just be simply the annoyance of that. Totally possible. But if it is that, what we really want to be looking at here, and one of the most important things is this practice of acceptance, radical acceptance of the awareness of the sensation and the awareness of the earworm. Meaning that you didn't ask for those sensations, you didn't ask for the earworm, you didn't seek them out or create them. They just kind of showed up, and they're obnoxious and bothersome from time to time. So our job then isn't to try to get rid of them, but it's to recognize that sometimes they happen, right? Now they're going to go away. The awareness on it is going to go away, but that distraction is going to kind of be there, right? So practicing acceptance, not adding on to your frustration with it, of the sensations or of the earworm itself, with fighting with, bargaining with, trying to, rack your brain with what's the perfect exposure, the right exposures to finally get this thing to go away. But instead, what if your perspective was, I know this is going to go away, but this is a obnoxious thing that is currently happening. Okay? So sometimes, our bodies will get like a muscle twitch that for no reason shows up, and not like a cramp, but like that weird thing where your muscle goes like bap, 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 bap. It's like Morse code for your muscles. It's telling you to work out or something like that. I don't know what it's doing, but it just kind of happens. Generally speaking, we treat that as just a weird phenomenon of our body, right? Or sometimes I'll get this thing where I inhale and my lungs or ribs feel like there's like a poking. I don't know what that is. Part of my brain goes, well, it's lung cancer, obviously. And like it hurts to inhale or exhale past a certain point, but I know that that's temporary because it's been there for a short time and then it eventually goes away. But we can treat that as part of what it means to just be you and being compassionate to the experience that you have. Okay. So I know this is just a lot of different ways to consider this, but we're ultimately saying this is just a thing that's happening in my life. I'm not going to try to make it go away. And in fact, I'm going to go live my life despite it and with it. Now, that leads me to the idea of attention training. So attention training, don't hear this as we're going to teach you how to thought suppress the most best. It's not that. Attention training is ultimately being able to build that muscle of shifting your focus from one thing to another, not suppressing one to ensure that you can focus on the other, but to allow for two things to exist, or two or more things to exist, while your attention is directed toward something of desire, something more of interest. Now, we do this on a regular basis. Sometimes, if you're just simply looking out the window, you might notice a car. Okay, you see that car, but within your peripheral vision, you also see a bunch of other things, right? In order to focus on the car, you don't have to intentionally ignore or block out or convince your brain that everything else doesn't exist so you can focus on the car. You recognize and accept that there are other things within your vision, but you direct your focus towards it. Now, we can do the same thing with our thoughts and our physical sensations, okay? So there are a couple different ways to practice that. And what we're trying to do with this is to, again, do two things: to acknowledge that we get the feelings, we get the sensations, and that we don't need to solve it or fix it or eliminate it. It's there. So we're going to let go of the solution over it, or the control over it, the eradication of it. It's going to be there. So we let go of that. So there are these two approaches that you can do, and these are easier said than done. And if you're working with a therapist, practice these things. And if you are not working with a therapist, there's a bunch of articles that you can read on this. One aspect in particular, you can go to Michael Greenberg's website. He has a lot of stuff on attention training type of stuff. He's not going to call it attention training, but it's trying to eliminate rumination. Okay. I'm also going to address some specific exposures you can do, I promise. But is there the best one? Is there a right one? No. Okay. So one way that you can do this is that I'm going to play an audio of myself reading two poems. One is The Road Less Traveled. No, that's not what it's called. What is it called? The Road Not Taken, by Robert Frost. It's probably my favorite poem. I know it's so cheesy and corny that it is my favorite poem, but I think it's the OCD poem, and it's the indecision poem. Read it. You'll love it. All right. So the other one is The Jabberwocky by Lewis Carroll, which is intentionally nonsensical. He writes words in there that make no sense, but in the context of reading it, your brain overlays onto it what it means, or you just kind of know what he's saying by these ridiculous words. So what I'm going to do is I am going to play both of them at the same time, one in one ear, one in the other ear. So if you're wearing headphones, this is great. If you're in your car, this is going to be super weird for you. But what I want you to do is to be able to focus on one just focus on one. Hear me read one poem and just turn your attention towards that. Don't take out an earbud to do this. Practice letting your attention be on one. And when you get distracted by the other one, you're not going to beat yourself up. You're going to gently bring yourself back to the one poem in one ear. Now, you can then rewind this and do it to the other side, right? Practice doing that, listening to one. And then when you get distracted by the other side, gently bring yourself back. Don't fight yourself. Don't be angry at yourself. You're learning a new skill. Now, this skill is then to be extended to focusing on different parts of your body. Now, you can focus on your knees, your ankles, or your stomach, or your chest, or your heart, or your scalp. And you can practice shifting back and forth between those various parts. So here's the audio, and then I'm going to yammer about it further. Two roads diverged in the slithy toads. Did Gyre and travel both, and be one all traveler? Mimsy where the I long stood and looked down one as far as I could. Beware the Jabberwock, to where it bent in the undergrowth. The jaws that bite and the claws that then catch. Took the other, as beware just the Jubjub bird, and having perhaps the better claim because it was grassy and wanted wear. He took his vorpal sword for that the passing long time the man's really about the same. And so rested that morning tum-tum tree, lay, and stood a no step had trodden black. And as an Uphus, I kept the first for another day. The Jabberwock, yet eyes how way came whiffling through the I doubted if I should ever come back, and burbled as it came. I shall be telling this with a sigh. 1, 2, and through and through the vorpal blade went. Two roads diverged in a wood. He left it dead, and with its head, the one less he went galumphing back. And that has. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Okay. So what'd you notice? What was it like? Was it harder than you thought? Was it easier than you thought? Was it weird? Did you just simply not like it? Did you not pick up anything? I don't know. But it's a skill, and what we're doing is we're acknowledging that we're going to be distracted. We are going to be distracted by other stimuli. And I think at the end of the day, with sensorimotor, there is an inherent distraction in it. We are going to be distracted by specific parts of our body. But your brain has then told you a story, a narrative about that sensation, that sensation needs to be eradicated in order for you to live your life. It can't be there because you have to focus on it or else, right? It might get worse, or it won't go away, or your life can't be full and full of meaning without it, right? But the reality is you can. And we need to be able to be open to distraction and not having the fullness of what you think you expect. And maybe this gets back to that, oh no, what did he call it? All of you out there are just yelling at me. The entitlement component from Phillipson. It's the I have to have this gone. I don't deserve to have this. I shouldn't have this. And it needs to go away. We don't. Or the I can't be distracted. I shouldn't be distracted in life. All right. So we're going to be. Now, to that end, when this distraction comes up, when the awareness and sensations arise, we can let go of our solving of it. So this is where the Greenberg stuff can come in really well. But I want to give you just a brief little exercise, and there are a lot more we can talk about with it. But so there's an exercise. So my question to you, Cece, what is your favorite food? What is it? Now, that may just immediately pop up for you. May not. Some people go, oh my gosh, I kind of like pizza, and burgers are really good. I like tacos. For some people, you're like shrimp for me, right? That's Bubba Gump, at least. But it's like, what is your favorite food might pop up. It might be like, what's your favorite movie or favorite band or something like that. Okay. That can happen really quickly, right? Where we have an answer immediately. Now, if I were to then say to your favorite food, like let's say it's tacos, right? What, like of all the tacos that you've ever eaten, I want you to rank them from not easiest. I want you to rank them from like the best freaking taco you've ever had, and then all the way down to the worst. Now, presumably, if tacos are your favorite food, you've had a lot of different types of tacos from a lot of different places. So it may be harder to think about. So, think about it for just a second. Like, what is your favorite thing? And if it's a band, rank every single one of their songs from their entire catalog, best song all the way down to worst song. Go. Gonna think about stuff. It's good. All right. Did you figure it out? I didn't think so. It takes a lot more work and a lot more effort, and you're putting energy into trying to figure this out, weighing the pros and cons, evaluating things. What was the best kind of meat? What was the best kind of shell around it? Was it hard taco? Was it soft taco? Did the best taco had like a weird sauce on it, whereas like the second one didn't have sauce, but the third one did have sauce? Like, what was the best sauce? Which one had the best onions on it? I don't know, whatever. Point is, it takes a lot of effort. Now, if I were to say, in the process of trying to figure out what's your best taco, stop the process right now. We're going to be done with that. Not think about something else, but let go of just trying to figure this out. It may be easier, it may be harder, but ultimately, that's the muscle we're trying to build. And just when you think about when you're thinking about something and trying to get to the solution, we're going to let go of the solving process of it. And your brain might still fire ideas at you. That's out of your control. We are not intentionally trying to solve this. Cece, you are not trying to then solve what to do with the lump in your throat, other than to notice it's there. You don't need to figure out the earworm, other than to acknowledge that for right now it's there. Yep, it is. I think this is also where that attention training comes in, and ACT for that matter. I have this earworm. What am I going to do with this earworm? What am I going to do alongside of it? Am I going to watch TV? Am I going to go talk to my friends? Am I going to have a conversation, continue to be at work, continue to have this conversation with my boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, husband, whatever? That's the goal. Which brings me to some intentional exposures you can do to practice this. Okay? So just a couple things. Are they the best? No. Are they magic? No. But one is to address that idea that you can't live your life and have distraction. And the other is to tolerate the reality of distraction. Okay? So for let's say for the earworm, and this can apply to a lot of different ones, what I sometimes do is I will ask someone to like maybe record the sound of a siren, and you can go online and try to find these sounds and put them into a playlist and just have them play back to back over and over and over again. And you have one earbud in as you go live your life. If you have like a wireless one that goes in your ear, people kind of forget that those exist in your ear and just accept that we're all cyborgs now. So you just have that one and go live your life. Go have conversations, go to work, go to the bar after work with friends, and have that one, and have it in your head. I don't know what sounds your sirens make. I legit don't know what country you're in. Point is, it's going to make that sound, and you're going to practice redirecting away from that sound to your conversation with your friends. There may be that like, oh, but I'm not really enjoying it. Okay, so let's say you're not really enjoying it, but how do you know that you were enjoying it without the earworm? How do you know you weren't fully enjoying life in the first place? We don't. There is no superlative, there is no gauge, there is no percentage of enjoyment or engagement or experience or connection that we'll know. It's all subjective. And the anxiety of the sensorimotor, it tends to suggest that whatever you're at, it's lower than it is. So we're going to say, great, I'm going to be distracted, but I'm going to go and enjoy my life anyways. You may never get used to the earworm. You may never like it. It may never go away. But we're going to say the earworm is there, and I'm going to go enjoy. I'm going to go to Disneyland. I'm going to go to this movie. I'm going to go to this concert in the park. Whatever you do, have that earbud in. Now, another thing you can do is you can get this random reminder generator. So there are various apps that do this, but you can download those and you can set some parameters. How often, between what hours, and what is it going to say in the random reminder? So you can, some of it's going to be like, you're going to set the reminder and it's going to pop up on your phone. It presents like a text message. So you grab your phone and it's going to say, take deep breaths or something like that. Or it's going to be like, call your mom. Or it's going to be, if it's like a spiritual discipline, it might be, say a 2-minute prayer or say the Lord's Prayer, like whatever it is, right? But for you, it's going to say swallowing Or for you, it's going to say lump in your throat. And 10 times a day or 20 times a day, you're going to get distracted in your job, in your relationship life, maybe in the middle of the night. I don't know. I don't know what your parameters are going to be. But the alarm is going to go off and you're going to notice it and you're going to look at your phone and go, I was bothered by this. And you're going to be thinking about it because now it's in your head. And you then practice acceptance. Yep. Okay. That thing's distracting. Well, let's get back to my life. And then you practice redirecting back to your life. It's not magic. We continuously practice the redirection. The magic isn't in eliminating the distraction. The magic is in a greater willingness and a greater ability to do the redirect away from and let go of the frustration or annoyance or anger or anxiety related to that story that comes from that distraction. It's there. And you redirect. When I get my lung thing, I go, all right, that's what it's like. I practice. There's a breathing thing that I've figured out where I kind of like push into it a little bit through the exhale or inhale. And eventually that stitch goes away. I'm sure there's a doctor out there who's listening who's going like, it's because you have lung cancer, Kevin. That's why. Go to a doctor. Anyways, it might be. It might not be. It probably isn't, but it could be. Anyways, so it's there, but it goes away, right? The lump in your throat will go away. Now, if there's that fear about, I'm going to give this to somebody, I'm not going to address that fully right now because it sounds like that's not really of greatest concern, but you want to know what exposures you can do. So I've given you some ideas on exposures, but again, the idea of exposure isn't so that you habituate to the sensations. It's so that you learn to live alongside the sensations and you learn to let it be there without your fixing, without your solving, without your elimination of it. So, Cece, I hope this was helpful. I know this was very quick and very, a broad overview. I want to give a shout out to Anna Chen, who's on staff at Cal OCD, so the California OCD and Anxiety Treatment Center, which is my private practice. Anna is one of the several fantastic therapists on staff, and she is an expert when it comes to attention training. So, she gave me the pizza taco example, and she also has some math examples as well, but a whole bunch of stuff. So a shout out to her. So thank you so much for that recommendation or suggestion. And I'm sure she's listening to it going like, you presented it wrong. She might be. I don't know. She'll yell at me when I get back into the office. So anyways, Cece, I hope that helps. I hope that points you in the right direction, or at the very least gives you something different to think about. So I'll let you go here. So take a risk, challenge yourself, and don't take your brain too seriously. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Fearcast. If you would like your question answered on a future episode, please click on the Submit a Question link at fearcastpodcast.com. If you would like your question answered sooner, please send me a recording of your question to questions@fearcastpodcast.com or by sending me an audio message through Instagram by DMing me at fearcastpodcast on Instagram. If you like the Fearcast, please write a review on your podcast platform of choice. Please remember that the Fearcast is not a substitute for psychotherapy. If you need a little bit of help in your recovery, please go over to fearcastpodcast.com and click on the Find Help link, and there's going to be some information for you there. So until next time, take a risk, challenge yourself, and don't take your brain too seriously.